Welcome into Ride the Line, the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. Take two of the day. You guys don't know that, but we do here, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, man, the people in the room. Welcome into the greatest podcast in sports entertainment. Grant, we are riding today because of the Dallas Mavericks last night. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Tanner. You didn't do your whole and you can't teach that. So I was a little lost. I was waiting to play along in the camera.
I only got one of those in me today, and I already did it, and then the streaming service quit out on me. So I only got one of those in me. The people are going to have to wait till Monday and come back for that. But we have a loaded show today on Ride the Line, people. We're talking about every NBA series you want to know. We're talking about Ryan Garcia juicing before a fight. We're talking about Michael Porter Jr.'s family, the entire situation. It's not been a good time for them. And do we have anything else on the docket, Grant? We got Michael Rubin buying a lot of seats because he doesn't want to get shown up again by the New York Knicks. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it's going to be a good day. Good day of sports as always. I mean, this is playoff time. This is where the headlines are.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the playoffs. I wake up every day thinking I actually have a say in how these games go, and I don't. But I'm really excited to sit on the couch and watch them till 1 a.m. But
well, you and I both have big bets down on these playoffs, so we are absolutely invested in them.
Yeah, like, you know, you were an athlete. I was an athlete. Like, looking back on my athletic career, like when it was a Friday night in high school or a Saturday afternoon in college getting ready to play a football game, I get that same feeling from sports betting. I don't know if that means that's a problem or not, but like I woke up yesterday for that Mavs game and I'm like, damn, like this is a big freaking day for me. And it's like the same thing as if I'm going out there for war on a football field when I was playing.
So question, this is interesting because I've only asked my track buddies who I ran with before, when you step outside, is there a certain like smell or just feel in the air or a temperature where you step outside and it feels like you're supposed to go play a football game later?
I don't know if I get it for a football game as much. Like I'll get it on a Friday night, like because in high school, you're obviously playing at night and seeing like the dusk. Like that's when I'll get it. I get it in like the summer when it's like 95 degrees and I'm like around a turf field or something. And I'm like, I don't wish I'm going back. Funny story. So when I was done playing, we went to see one of my old high school coaches became a college coach. So we went to watch a spring ball practice where they were doing it. And it was me and two of my other buddies. And like me and one of my friends, like we're done. Like we never would want to do this. Like this is Saturday morning in the spring. Who would want to be out here? And then our other guy's like, he's like sniffing the turf. So just give me one more. Just give me one more chance. Like one more time to go out there with the boys on a Friday night. And I'm like, you outside of your mind? Like go play some sports bet, buddy. It's gonna make you feel the same way.
For me, it's normally about this time of year, about spring. It can also be fall though. It's like a little. I don't know what the word is, but like there's some dew on the grass. The air feels a little heavy. It's probably like 50, 60 degrees. Like it's some cloudy outside. I don't know, but it's almost like this ominous sort of feeling. And I mean, you didn't compete, but you run too. So, you know, a lot of times you're running early in the morning or late at night. And it's just those types of days where I get that feeling. And it's weird too, because I mean, I haven't run competitively in 6 years now. But I'll just open the door, I'll step outside, and I just get this internal feeling like, oh, this is what I need to do.
Yeah, I'm almost going on a decade of not playing football. Not there yet, but almost getting on a decade of not playing football, which is wild to think about. Like you still get those feels and you still talk about it like you were something. But now it's just gamble, people. That's all you got to do. And you got to subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, those feelings never leave you too, because like you still consider, I mean, for the rest of your life, you're going to consider yourself a football player, even when you're 80 years old and, you know, it's going to have been 60 years since you played.
Yeah, like I played football. That's all I'll say. I don't know football, but I played football. You know, like that's more where I'm at with it right now. But
yeah, 100%. But like you said, guys, we're about to jump into all sorts of topics here. But before we do, like Tanner said, hit that subscribe button, like the video. And Tanner, where are we going to with the first topic here?
The first topic, we're going right to Ryan Garcia because Ryan Garcia came out and whooped Devin Haney's ass, or so it seemed. We thought he was boozing. We thought he was smoking. We thought he was doing everything wrong, but it seemed like he was in pretty good shape. That may have been caused by a performance-enhancing substance. We got a lot of issues now with betting and legal gambling and all that on this. We'll talk about that in a minute, but just off the bat, Grant, I know you might have dabbled in the same substance as Ryan Garcia before for your big muscles.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that I use performance enhancing drugs. It's hard to tell when Ryan is being serious or not these days. There's this whole debate on if he's actually crazy or if it's a marketing strategy, whatever it is. On Twitter, he posted a picture of some supplements. They're called ashwagandha. A lot of people take these. Supposedly, they help you sleep better at night. I tried taking it because I don't always sleep the best. I didn't really notice a difference. I think it also can have something to do with your bone health or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I have no idea if that would cause this test to flag and say, yeah, it has this supplement that you're not allowed to take. We'll probably never know. But I mean, just off the bat here, these guys are still 100 and 145 pounds. Like, I don't know how much juicing is going to help them because I don't know how much of a punch you're going to pack at that size. And Ryan already had the fastest hands in the world, but whether it was ashwagandha or if it wasn't ashwagandha, this creates a huge problem for the sports betting industry. This is the first time that we've had one of these sort of landmark cases. Maybe not the first time, but this is a landmark case where whatever happens here is going to kind of set the trajectory on what is to come in sports betting, because there are a bunch of people out there who put their hard-earned money on Devin Haney to win. He loses seemingly fair and square. The bet loses. The sports books takes your money. Well, if it wasn't fair, if Ryan cheated, and Ryan already missed weight too, we can't forget about that. So because he missed weight, he was not allowed to claim the belt. The results still stood, but now you have missed weight and you have the performance enhancing drugs. I don't see how it's unfair if you don't refund Devin Haney bettors their money. But at the same time, I just don't know how the sports books would do that on such a large scale, especially considering this isn't like Aaron Rodgers getting injured on the fourth play of the season and the bet's voiding. It's been a week plus now since this happened.
Well, number one thing, like boxing community, whatever the fight sanctions, like the drug test has to be in before the fight. Like we can't drop this news after the fact. That's the first issue I think I see here. Number two being like when it comes to the betting markets, the one saving grace that all the sports books had here was Devin Haney was minus 1,000. That's the one saving grace. However, there's the round props and like method of victory and all that, which they have to get into. And that makes it even harder too, because what are you going to do in that situation? But like Ryan Garcia was the heavy dog. He was the public's darling. Like people wanted to take him. So the people that bet on Ryan Garcia got their money and got out kind of thing. And if this was like a minus 110 fight each side, then we probably would have seen a little more backlash. Like the first thing I did last night was went to Twitter and I was like going through like DraftKings and FanDuel and like looking at the reply section. There wasn't a lot of people too angry in the comments. I think a big reason for that was just how mismatched this fight was from an odds perspective.
And also probably a lot of people took Ryan because, Devin Haney's a great fighter, but he's pretty boring. He doesn't have much charisma, doesn't have a large following. That's what Ryan does. I mean, Ryan's a social media star. And he's also a boxing star. I'm not calling him, you know what I'm saying. But also, I mean, on this topic of, are we going to refund better? Ryan placed a $2 million bet on himself. We can't forget about that. So he won $12 million after missing weight, and apparently after using performance-enhancing drugs. And again, this almost motivates the sportsbooks to do what we were saying and take the money back, but from the winning bettors. But at the same time, how do you do that? Like if, let's not use an extreme case of $12 million, but let's say I put $100 down. Ryan was plus 600. So I win $600. I've got $700 in my account now. I withdraw that. Are the sportsbooks going to say, hey, you have negative 700 now? How does that work?
Can't do it because you're going to create such a bad rap between you and your customer. You can't do it. Like they just got to kind of take the hit here and play it as if Ryan Garcia won the fight. You can refund Devin Haney. Who's the football player? Didn't like LaShawn McCoy? Was it LaShawn McCoy?
Oh, who bet the 250,000 on minus 1,000 odds?
It shady?
Yeah, it was shady.
It was shady. Like in that case, I'd probably be like, hey, like I kind of want my money back. Like this is ridiculous. And that was on the Fanatic Sportsbook, who we're going to talk about Michael Rubin here in a minute. But if it's like, I imagine Ryan Garcia went to Vegas, dropped the $2 million and collected it, or it wasn't through like a DraftKings or a FanDuel, because I don't know if they would have allowed that. But I think you just kind of, if you're a sports book, you kind of got to live with it and say, hey, we lost money on Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. If they want to do the right thing, I think it would be to refund all the Devin Haney bets, because I don't think the liability is going to be super high there, considering it was minus 1,000, but you never know.
Yeah, you do. I mean, like you said,
Yeah.
LaShawn McCoy, 250,000. LaShawn McCoy should be banned from sports betting. $250,000 on -1,000 odds is criminal.
Yeah, and you know what too? Fanatics, Sportsbook. I got a bone to pick with these guys. I sent them a message yesterday and they said they were going to send me my win-loss history because their app was broken and they didn't send it back. And I was not happy about that. So I'm not like the fact that they're taking like they shouldn't have taken a $250,000 bet on that. I'm sorry, $250,000 bet. They shouldn't have.
By the way, I do actually like the Fanatic Sportsbooks, though. I don't know what
I
your
do.
feelings are, and
I
I
do.
haven't spent a ton of time doing like an odds comparison or things like that. But just the user interface and some of the animations, it's very sleek. It feels very fun to use.
It is. It's kind of like points bet. And for a while there, they were giving great bonuses. It was like, we're going to drop 10, 20% bonuses and you can do them up to like $500. I'm like, what world is this? And then they stopped doing it. Now it's like a $10 max on like a 50, on like a 20 or 30% profit boost. But it's a good book. It's solid. I have no complaints.
To put a bow on this, I do find it very interesting that boxers are allowed to go bet on themselves to win. I mean, Ryan couldn't bet $2 million on himself to lose, but like in the NFL case, can Patrick Mahomes go bet $1 million on him to win the Super Bowl? No, he can't. But Ryan Garcia can bet $2 million on him to win a fight. I just find that interesting.
I think it's interesting. I don't mind it as much because, like in the NFL, there's so many outside circumstances. Like Patrick Mahomes can't win the game by himself. He still needs defense. Like if Patrick Mahomes' defense gives up 49 points, the Chiefs probably aren't going to win the game every single time, right? So you got to take that into play. When it comes to fighting, though, I also thought of this loophole. Well, if I bet on myself, okay, well, I can talk to you and be like, well, I'm going to bet $2 million on myself to win. If you get knocked out, I'm going to give you $6 million kind of thing. Obviously the system's going to find all this stuff. But I also like it in the sense of I want to see an entertaining fight. Like I want to see these guys go out and bet on themselves. Like they're going to war. They're trying to kill the other person across from them. They should be able to bet on themselves.
I agree with that. I think especially in combat sports, because there's something so not maybe not primitive, but just it's something so old school about it, something so primal. I think that's the word I'm looking for, primal, that it's literally you versus the other guy, and it's a war. It's a war to the finish, and I think you should be able to bet on yourself. I can't remember if I talked about it on the show or not, but Eddie Hall, who's regarded as one of, if not the strongest man of all time, he was the first man to lift 500 kilos, which is 1,102 pounds in a deadlift, and he bet. He's never come out and said what the money was, but he was not poor, but he was working his own job. Like he had his own company. I think he was a handyman or something like that, an electrician on top of training for all this. And he basically said, I rounded up everything I could from not only my accounts, but I had some friends and family members loan me some money, and I bet it all on myself to pull this feat that nobody had ever done before. And it ended up changing his life completely.
Yeah, it's smart to let them bet on themselves too, because even if like there was that funny business where if I say, well, I'm going to bet 2 million, I'll give you a cut if you go down. Like these guys' careers, like how they make money is based on them winning fights. And they're also warriors. They don't want to get their ass kicked in the middle of an octagon or a ring. They want to go out and hurt the other person. So I think you're just going to get less of that funny business. But yeah, like you said, it's primal. I think they should be able to bet on themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Grant. Well, Michael Porter Jr.'s family is not doing well right now. They're down pretty bad. You kind of got the scoop here, so why don't you give it to the people?
Yeah, it's been an interesting week and a half, 2 weeks for MPJ. And shout out to MPJ, who was outstanding in the first round against the Lakers. Averaged 22 points, I think 48% from three. He was electric. Big reason the Nuggets are able to win that series, but his family is not doing too hot. One of his brothers was sentenced to 8 years in prison for killing somebody while driving under the influence. Then a few days later, his other brother, Jonte Porter, gets banned for life from the NBA for betting on games. And then just the other day, yesterday, the time we're recording this, another one of his brothers is arrested for a DWI. So, I don't know. I almost have a newfound respect for Michael Porter Jr. because he was able to not just play, but not play at his average either, but just play spectacularly well against the Lakers. Because, I mean, we've seen this in numerous instances where a player's going through a divorce or a family member dies, a grandparent, some personal tragedy strikes like that, and players just crumble. And for MPJ to have the mental fortitude to rise above that, just kudos to him. And, this is a tough time for him, unbelievably tough time. So hope he's doing well.
Yeah, I always like Michael Porter Jr. Like he's just a genuine good dude. I saw him on a podcast and he was talking about like the difference between being like in the NBA and the NFL. Obviously, when you go to a game on a Sunday, like you're locked up, like the entire night you're locked up. You're in, you're out. NBA, you're on the road all the time, right? So these guys have a little more freedom. And he was talking about like how teammates and how people we've seen in the league are just going around trying to smash as much as they can. Where he's like, I'm a relationship guy. Like I want to find the right woman. I want to be like, I want to be faithful on the road. Like he's saying all the right stuff. He's a good dude.
Would that happen to be his interview with Lana Rhoades?
Was it? I don't think it was Lana because they were cutting away from it. It might have been Lana Rhoades.
I mean, I'm just guessing. I saw the clip on social media. I didn't see the full podcast, but just from the topic, it sounds like that would be something the two of them would have discussed.
I mean, Lana's definitely one of the goats. Like I'll give her that, but she's become very. I'm not like a big Lana Rhoades fan. I like Mike Malak a lot, so I'm more of like when they were together.
Okay.
But like I think she's become very anti-industry. So like maybe she's trying to settle down and she's trying to meet the one. So maybe that's why they bonded, because she's not about the industry anymore, Grant. So why don't you get that little Lana Rhoades comment out of your mouth? Okay. She's a genuine woman now. And I'm all for the industry.
You're the one who called her one of the goats.
She climbed the rankings pretty quickly. I mean, she climbed the rankings quicker than Jackson Holiday did in the majors.
Well, I mean, Jackson Holiday, he started at the top of the totem pole and then fell off. They had to send him back to AAA.
Yeah, and she stayed at she left on her own terms. Okay, the great ones typically go out on their backs, and she went out on her own terms. Okay. She's big in NBA players too. She loves NBA players. We know that. Isn't Blake Griffin her baby daddy?
I was wondering if that's where you're going. I mean, that's the rumor. I haven't seen anything on that in probably 4 or 5 years, so I don't know if the rumor ended up being true. You want me to do some live reporting here? Let me see what Google has to say.
But anyways, like no matter who he's talking to it with, like Lana Rhoades she's reborn.
The first thing I see from an anonymous Reddit post is it's not Blake Griffin's baby, it's Bruce Brown's. I don't know. I don't know. We'll probably never know.
We're gonna find out if the baby's in the NBA in like 15 years. We're gonna know it was somebody, and then we can figure it out.
I mean, that's like one of the big questions about LeBron, because LeBron doesn't know who his dad is, and his mom is not a genetic freak or anything. So it's like, how did this get here? Like, is his dad an NBA player somewhere? And Michael Jordan, there's a podcast clip where Michael Jordan said like at the end of his career, he was sleeping with 1 to 3 women per day. And it's like, are one of these kids out here, is Michael Jordan their dad?
Well, it's the same thing with like Ric Flair. Ric Flair had sex with like 5,000 people. You're telling me not those people? Yeah. You're telling me not one of those people.
You think that's what he said? You think that's what he said when he was getting down and dirty?
Have you watched the 30 for 30 on Ric Flair? It's really good. Like
the
Nature Boy. It's solid. You should check it out, Grant. He talks about that. He used to just order drinks for everybody. They all come over. He would call up. He would be like on his like promos at the end. He's like, we're staying at the Marriott downtown. Come on by. 18 to 30. That's what he would say.
Well, I was at my freshman year of college. We had a concert with Waka Flocka, and the opener was Dram, Big Dram at the time. And he showed up late. He came out. He performed for. I mean, again, he was the opener. He was out there for probably like 20 minutes, and he did the same thing as he was leaving. He was like, "All right, ladies, you in the front. I really like you. I'm staying at this hotel across the street. This is my number." He just said his cell phone number into the microphone. He's like, anybody trying to come get it on later, like, let me know. And then he left.
There you go. Grant, this is your fault. This went off the rails because you brought up Lana Rhoades.
Brought up Lana Rhoades.
No, you said, was that the podcast with Lana Rhoades? You don't think I'm going to acknowledge that?
But I think it was. I think that's where the clip was from.
It was. I think it was. I didn't recognize it in my head. Like, oh, that's Lana Rhoades. I was just like, he's just a good dude. Like you went the twisted way with it. But the people want the ball talk. The people came here for the ball talk. Okay, so we got to give them a little ball talk. We got about 10 minutes, a little over 10 minutes, talk about 3 series here. I think the first one we got to break down tonight, Knicks versus Sixers. I think the Sixers can come back and win this series. I think the Knicks won a game they had no business winning. The Sixers won a game they had no business winning. Now, Philly's been challenged. Like, you pissed off Philly. So now if Philly wins game 6 and this goes back to the Garden for game 7, I think it's anyone's series.
I agree with that. What I find very interesting about this series, if there's one thing the Knicks are going to do, it's they're going to find out if you're a boy or if you're a man, because they want to punk you. You know, Tom Thibodeau has got this team to just play with this relentless mindset. They're going to crash the boards. They're going to dive for loose balls. They're going to make you run. They're going to make you hurt. Screens, offensive rebounds, dives out. They're going to do everything they can. They want you to crumble. And the Sixers, to their credit, especially for a team that is accused of being weak mentally, they have responded. And Tyrese Maxey, can't say enough about Tyrese Maxey. What he did for him to score 7 points in the final 28 seconds to get that game to overtime, then to take over the overtime, finish that game with 46 points, down 3-1, got a chance to go home. And if you win this game, it's 3-3 going to game 7. For a 23-year-old who was the third option last year, like I was on with our friend G-Unit the other night, and we were talking about this, and I said, look, Tyrese Maxey has ascended to the point that he is no longer a number 2. This is a number 1 player who just so happens to be teammates with the reigning MVP.
Yeah. And it wasn't scoring the points down the stretch. It was how he did it. I mean, one was a logo 3. The other one, he got fouled. Like, if they don't foul him there, the game's over. Like, just let him shoot the ball. That's the same thing last night, like with the Mavs and the Clippers. Like, the Clippers went on a little run at the end of the third quarter, and then they fouled on a 3-pointer. It went in. It's 4-point play. Like, you just can't do that. You got to be smarter in that situation. The Knicks opened the door for the Sixers, but they stepped right through it. And the same thing happened earlier in the series when the Sixers had a 99% chance to win with like 40 seconds left in the game, and they found a way to blow it. But basketball aside here, when you're the Sixers, like Joel Embiid's comments after, what was it, game 4, right? Game 4, when he basically said, like, that Philly's supposed to be a sports town. Like, I'm not pissed off at the fans, but the fans didn't show up. You can't lose this game tonight because the fans are going to show up. The fans are going to be loud. Michael Rubin and the Sixers ownership group have bought 2,000 tickets. They're giving them to first responders around Philadelphia. Like, it is going to be a heavy Philly crowd night. New York's going to show up too, but the Sixers can't lose this game tonight because it's going to be a hostile environment.
I absolutely agree with that. And what's interesting is Embiid. I think Embiid, I think we're at the point where we can no longer question Embiid's toughness or desire, because that has been a question in the past. But when you see the fact that he can barely get up and down the court, and yet he's still playing, he played 48 minutes in the last game. We're saying he's playing poorly, and he's averaging 32 points per game. Like, that's the standard that we have for this guy. And so I don't want to question his mentality or anything like that. With all that being said, it looks like he was playing for the Knicks at the end of the fourth quarter in game 5. Game 5. He was turning the ball over left and right, and missed shots, bad passes, blown defensive assignments. And again, this goes back to Maxey. For Maxey to withstand that and to get his team to overtime, and then to Embiid's credit, I thought he was actually a positive force in overtime. So I think he did bounce back there. But, like you said, if you are Joel Embiid, no matter what, as unfair as it is to say put a torn meniscus aside, it's what you have to do, because you called out your city, the city of brotherly love. And they don't always love everybody, but Joel Embiid, they love you. But if you call them out and then you come back out tonight and you scored 19 points with 9 turnovers, just like you did last time, they are going to be coming for your neck. So this is not just a must win for the Sixers, but it's a must win for Joel Embiid personally.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what the crowd looks like. Now, as a Knicks bettor yourself, and having the Knicks in your parlay, and if just in Knicks bettors and Knicks fans in general, let's say, how concerned are you on a scale of 1 to 10 about losing this series?
I'm concerned. A lot of times we get caught up in this idea because you got to remember 3-1 comebacks just barely happen. I think it's happened 13 times in NBA history in the first round. So it's a very low percentage. That being said, there are a lot of 3-1 comebacks that get to a game 7, but the team that got to 3 wins first does still win the series. So it wouldn't be totally unprecedented for the Sixers to force a game 7 here, but history says you still got to go with the Knicks. With that being said, though, I mean, when you've got Joel Embiid, who is the reigning MVP, it's different. This isn't a typical 3-1 comeback and you're playing a typical 7 seed. This is a really good team who, again, their second option just scored 46 points. So I think if you're the Knicks, you approach this as we have to win this game tonight. I honestly, I honestly don't know if they will. I believe the Sixers are favored by a couple of points, but not probably enough to go with the Knicks on the spread there. I don't have a lean as a sports bettor on this game. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, like I have no desire to bet it. I think if it was closer to a pick'em game, I would definitely take the Sixers, but I think it's a 3-point spread. I really just want to watch it. I have a lot of friends who are Knicks bettors or Knicks fans, and like obviously you're a friend who's a Knicks bettor, but like I have a lot of like hardcore Knicks fan friends. So I just want to see them sweat a little bit. Sorry, Grant, you're gonna have to sweat. It's going 7. We know it's going 7.
I think it probably will. It's just this weird thing of like the Sixers are the better team, but the Knicks play better together and they have more mental toughness, quote unquote, but then Philly battled back. Like, there's so much just back and forth here that it's hard for me to really say which team has the edge.
Definitely. Well, Grant, you know who had the edge last night? Dallas Mavericks, 123-93. You'll be proud of me, ready for this? So somebody tagged me in my Discord last night. Yo, Tanner just dropped $3,000 on the Clippers. They got a better bench. They're going to win. I'm like, no, the Mavs are going to win this game. And this is like mid first quarter. And what I'm seeing is Paul George not show up. I'm seeing the role players step up for the Clippers. I'm saying the role players aren't going to beat Luka and Kyrie down the stretch. I'm seeing James Harden miss all the floaters. I'm seeing Paul George not even take threes. And at that point, Luka wasn't making his threes, and they were still kind of controlling the game. So I'm like, nah, man, like you just lost $3,000. I'm sorry. So the Mavs come out in the second quarter. Then the role players for the Mavs start to step up a little bit. Then Kyrie gets going, and then Luka finally gets going late in the game. And it was like it all came together exactly how you've been saying it. Like James Harden and Paul George are going to disappear in the playoffs. And I saw it. I'm like, he's missing the floaters. Paul George ain't doing anything. Russell Westbrook is a waste of space on the floor. And at that point, I'm like, yeah, Mavs got this tonight. I can go to bed.
Yeah, you asked me what my level of confidence was in the Mavericks beating the Clippers when the series was tied 2-2. Told you 9 out of 10. Still supremely confident in them. I've been saying it all series long. The Mavericks don't deserve to be winning, but that doesn't mean that they are not the better team. You will absolutely see them win this series. They're now up 3-2, going home. I don't give a damn if the Clippers force game 7. The Mavericks will win the series, whether it is in 6 or if it is in 7. To go back to everything that I've been saying, James Harden and Paul George combined to go 6 of 25 from the field. That means they shot 24%. They scored 22 points on 25 shots combined. Okay, go back to game 4 when they shot 62% from 3 as a team. We knew that wasn't going to stick. We knew Paul George wasn't going to score a career high in playoff points in the first half again. There are just these things that we don't have to speak about him. You can look at James Harden and Paul George's averages and say, well, they're going to give me a consistent total. That's not how it works. They have some really good games, and then they have some shitters. And that's what happened in this game. That's what everybody should have expected. If, sorry to your Discord guy who bet $3,000 on the Clippers. It was just a stupid bet. If you've been watching this team or these players for the last 5 years, then you know the collapse was coming. And that's what ended up happening. Just to close it out here, the Mavericks won the second, third, and fourth quarter by 10 points. The game was not close down the stretch.
No, it wasn't. And in the games that the Clippers have won, like you need to sit back, and it's hard when you're betting to like be, because you're stressed out when you're betting. But when you take a step back and you say, well, the Clippers, the games they've won, they've made 16 threes in each of those games. I believe the number was 16. Teams that do that are undefeated in the playoffs. I think it's only happened 5 times. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. I heard on a podcast. But basically, they made all their threes. The Clippers have done this more than like any team in the playoffs, and when they win, that's what they have to do. When you're looking at the Dallas Mavericks, they haven't made their threes consistently in this series, but they've just constantly been in it. Like they've never really been down that much. Obviously, the 31 points was huge, but they still battled their way back, and that just shows how much better of a team they are. So I think they need to close out in Game 6. You don't want to worry about Game 7 being on the road in LA, but there's no reason not to have confidence in the Mavericks. If it gets to a Game 7, they do have to go back to LA.
And the longer the series goes on, the better that Luka's going to get. I mean, supposedly he's been sick for like the last week and a half, and he's got the sprained knee that he's dealing with. He said if it was a regular season game, he wouldn't be playing. You extend this thing longer, you're just giving him more time. And a healthy Luka, there's nobody over there on that Clippers team that wants anything to do with him.
No, and if he would have made a couple of threes early in the game, because he didn't start making them until the end, they would have been up by 10 points way before they even got up by double digits. So it was a good win. I think Mavericks will win the series, Grant. kudos to you. You've been saying it the whole time. I haven't been as confident. One more series to talk about here. Nuggets Timberwolves coming up for the Western Conference semifinals. Do you have the odds up in front of you, Grant?
I do. Now, the Denver Nuggets are pretty sizable favorites here, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. You can get the Denver Nuggets for minus 205 to win this series, so some pretty heavy juice there. And then you got the Timberwolves at plus 164. What I do find to be a pretty interesting market, if you are a Timberwolves, maybe, I don't know if better because that would imply outright, but maybe a Timberwolves supporter. If you think they're going to push this thing to game 7, you can get the Timberwolves for plus 1.5 games for minus 128. So those are still pretty playable odds. And then the Nuggets to win the series, minus 1.5 would be plus 104 odds.
Well, looking at that, I don't think there's a lot of value on either side. I think if I had to pick one, it would probably be the Timberwolves plus 1.5 for the series. But my advice would be to wait, see what happens in game 1, because if the Timberwolves win it, it's still going to be close to a pick 'em. If the Nuggets win that game 1, the Timberwolves, it might be plus 2.5 for the series for like high juice. And you could take plus 1.5 for plus money there. So I would probably wait and see. That's exactly what I did for the Mavericks series. It worked out in my favor. If you miss on the opportunity, so what? Just bet the games.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this game is very interesting. This series is very interesting. Denver was 33-8 at home, tied for the best home record in the Western Conference. But the Timberwolves were tied for the best road record in the Western Conference at 26-15. Minnesota should theoretically match up well with Denver because of their defensive structure. Best defensive rating in the regular season, best defensive rating in the postseason, I do believe so far. And so, we know what this team can do. Obviously, they've got a guy who's about to be a 4-time defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert. The interesting part is Gobert's not going to guard Jokic because he's given him fits pretty much anytime they've come across one another. It's now a meme, but there's a famous story of back when Gobert was with the Utah Jazz and they were playing the Nuggets, Gobert was basically waving off a double team saying, "No, I got him. And Jokic looked at him and said, "Brother, I have 47 points." And that's just what happens when these two play each other. Gobert, as good of a defender as what he is, or what he does, he just can't stop Jokic. And so what you're going to see is Karl Anthony Towns being the main guy on Jokic. You're going to see Gobert roaming in that free safety sort of area under the basket, patrolling the dunker spot, keeping tabs on Aaron Gordon. I do think the Nuggets are the better team here. And if they play up to their full potential, I have them winning the series in 6 games. With that being said, the level of intensity and desire that I saw from the Timberwolves, their togetherness in that last series against the Phoenix Suns, the fact that they also are going to have a bit more rest, the Denver Nuggets cannot afford to come out with the same attitude they treated the Lakers with because, I think they respected the Lakers, but I don't think they treated them with respect in a lot of those games. They were willing to go down 15 points at halftime. If they do that to the Timberwolves are going to steal this from them. So you need to see Denver come out, play with a championship effort. If they do that, I do think they win the series, but 99% instead of 100% of their best effort, Timberwolves push this thing to 7, potentially even win.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think when you're looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves, you have Anthony Edwards, one of the most intense dudes in the league, just wants to go out there and kill you every time he takes the floor. And I think that's going to translate here if the Nuggets do come out flat. If the Nuggets come out, play their game, play their style of basketball, they're going to be just fine. They know how to close. They know how to win the playoffs. But don't open the door up because Minnesota is probably playing with a chip on their shoulder. They really got nothing to lose in the series. Nobody expects anything of them, even though they're a 3 seed going against a 2 seed here. Should be a competitive series, but I do like the Nuggets to pull it out. I think still my favorite bet, though, would be Minnesota plus 1.5 for the series spread, thinking the series goes 7.
I'm with you. I'm probably going to bet that myself. Timberwolves plus 1.5.
There you go, Grant. Well, we were riding today. It was a riding day. We talked about everything from Lana Rhodes to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So it was a solid day.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. And guys, if you did enjoy, make sure you do hit that subscribe button, like the video, drop some comments. Tanner's got his bet looking good. I've got my parlay. Let us know what you guys are going to be betting on in the NBA these next couple of days. And Tanner, get us on out of here.
That was Ride the Line, the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. We'll see you on Monday for another episode.